So moving into this Andrew Yang segment, I found this story interesting that came out about him recently. But to those of you that don't know, as most of you probably do, Andrew Yang was a Democratic primary candidate from this past primary cycle, and honestly, the guy had very bold ideas. His UBI program was honestly that was laughed at with him coming in. It's now something that's taken seriously now. Like, people are calling for a UBI from both sides of the aisle. I think Mitt Romney was one of them. Josh Crawley, I believe, also as well. But yeah, there were his like he took something that was so obscure and unknown and honestly like laughed at and brought it to the mainstream. And it's like, that's one of the reasons Andrew Yang when because like my political like getting into politics is fairly new. Like, so Andrew Yang was somebody that caught my attention as like I guess an independent. Finally, I went through my Trump phase and my obviously my whole life the Democratic Party phase. Just Obama. All that you guys know. But it was kind of interesting to see this guy, Asian guy, come out of nowhere and talking about UBI, giving people $2,000, giving people $2,000 a month, as kind of like a safety net, a financial safety net for people, an economic safety net. And I believe he's a supporter of single payer. But he's kind of blurry there, and that was eventually became my issue with him because as I became solidified in being a Medicare for all single payer supporter, that's where it was like his iffiness on that was like and that's when I started to lean more towards Tulsi, and Tulsi was my girl. I loved her, and y'all know the whole story with that, but. During his campaign, he was kind of in the same boat as same boat as Tulsi when it comes, just bringing her up. Whereas the media ignored them flat out. People that understood how the media worked and operated, we knew this. They're ignoring this guy. They don't want to hear his ideas because his ideas challenges the current establishment's inability to actually do anything for the people. And it's like, that they boxed him out, because he wasn't like Tulsi Gabbard where he was, outrightly criticizing, the Democratic Party like she was. Like, this is somebody who in 2016, I believe she was part of the board or she was like a chairman of the DNC and she stepped down because the Democratic Party was cheating Bernie. She endorsed Bernie. So. But Andrew Yang came in basically with his ideas more so than actually criticizing the party. But unfortunately, his ideas are a criticism of the party because we all know the Democratic Party is unable to actually pass legislation that will help people, which is why you see them cheering on shit like the Affordable Cares Act, where basically it gives people crumbs. To steal the words of AOC. It gives people crumbs. The Democratic Party has been throwing people crumbs forever since Jimmy Carter. Bill Clinton, definitely under Obama. The Affordable Care Act is crumbs. So, but the media blacked this guy out, and finally, it's kind of weird that it comes to light. So, this woman's name is Ariana something. What is her name? Hang on one second. I'm looking her name up. Ariana Pakari. I hope I'm saying her name right. Ariana Pakari. But she was like a former. She was a former MSNBC producer. Like she was in charge of putting the shows together. She was a producer for MSNBC, Lawrence O'Donnell's show specifically. For, Mister. You shouldn't vote for the party. If they don't. He's known for this clip. I've played this clip on my show before.
If you want to pull the party, the major party that is closest to the way you're thinking, to what you're thinking, you must show them that you're capable of not voting for them. If you don't show them you're capable of not voting for them, they don't have to listen to you. I promise you that. I worked within the Democratic Party. I didn't listen or have to listen to anything on the left while I was working in the Democratic Party because the left had nowhere to go.
So that's who Lawrence O'Donnell is. I think that's when he was younger. Now he's on full blown, vote blue no matter who type of guy. But he was saying shit like this back in the day. But Ariana Makari, his producer, just exposed MSNBC for basically doing a blackout of Andrew Yang. Like you would see him at like debates and everything. They would give him very little camera time. Whenever it came to showing the names of the Democratic primary candidates, he would never be on the list. He would be, and they said there was a list of people as she's going to say in the clip I'm bringing up. But there was a list of people where you just don't talk about these people and you don't bring them on for interviews. So I'm just going to go ahead and play the clip right now and let you guys see.
So thank you for taking this additional time. So as I think people who watched our conversation could tell, I wanted to delve into sort of structural issues around cable news. And then afterwards, you tweeted out, be like, hey, I looked at my journal, and it turns out there was a list of candidates that we weren't meant to seek out interviews with, and you were one of them. And I'd have to say, I think I and many people who supported me kind of sensed that, but I didn't want to put you on the spot when we were talking on the podcast, because frankly, I didn't want to seem like I just had an axe to grind. Like I'm more interested in trying to figure out what the structural incentives and problems are than anything that had to do with my campaign. But first, let me say thank you so much for reviewing your notes and unearthing that piece of information. It did mean a lot to me and people who supported me.
Of course. Now it's frustrating because there were things every day that I was watching happen that didn't seem right to me. And so in one way, them telling us, who they want to go after and who they don't want to go after, it was just kind of just another normal day, sadly. But I saw something, after you tweeted, we were doing an interview today, someone said something about reference the primaries, and it reminded me of that, conversation that we'd had. So I wasn't sure, I'm still all boxed up, from my move to Virginia, and I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to find my notes, but I did. And there was a list of candidates, and next to your name, it said never to pursue you.
So this is like, it's known, like if you if you're not part of it, if you're not a liberal, that the media does this. The media does this to conservatives. The media does this to progressives. It does it to independents that don't go with the establishment narrative. And it's like this is what the media does. And if they don't do this, if they just don't ignore you, they take you out of context, just like they take Bernie out of context all the time when he was running. They take AOC out of context all the time. Literally, the liberal media is even worse because they try to pretend like they don't do it. Like Fox News and the conservative media, they're attacking, progressives, and that's what that's their job, and it's like it's expected. However, you wouldn't expect the left media, like people that also would call themselves and possibly identify as progressives, like CNN and MSNBC, launch bad faith attacks like in this way. But they do, especially when it comes to policies like Medicare for all, for example. MSNBC always, whenever it comes down to talking about, well, how are we going to pay for it? They sound just like fucking Sean Hannity or Tucker Carlson or Lou Dobbs or any, Fox News host when it comes to talking about policies that actually help people. And honestly, all these outlets, these media outlets do is talk about identity politics 24/7. Like even right now in the story I'm going to cover later, Biden's foreign policy team, they're not talking about just the fuckery that went on with the people, in those teams, like, Antony. That's how you say his name, Antony. That's so weird. I'm just gonna call him Tony. Like Tony Blinken and Michelle Flournoy and Avril Haines. Like, they're not talking about the war crimes that they participated in. They're not talking about the warmongering that they participated in. Also, part of Biden's economy team, Neera Tanden, she got caught with her foot in her mouth multiple times, like from advocating for regime change wars to go in and steal people's resources, to shitting on Hillary Clinton, basically saying she's not a good candidate, like most of us knew. But that's another story that I'm going to cover at another time. But they talk about the identity politics, but they don't actually talk about policy because they don't have any policies that actually help people. And Andrew Yang is an interesting person because Andrew Yang is Asian. He's Asian, but his people don't love him because of just the fact that he's Asian. People liked him and loved him because of his policies. It was interesting too. Dave Chappelle endorsed him and everything. Like I was a huge Yang guy until I started seeing him flip flop on Medicare for all. And honestly, I just got more into Tulsi personally. Like I agreed with more of her policies. You know, she was more rounded as a candidate when it came to multiple issues that I cared about. You know, Andrew Yang obviously was talking about heavily about UBI and that one issue. And I'm sure he had good ideas to bring to the table about the other issues I care about, like, you know, our foreign policy and more just domestic policy as well, like infrastructure rebuilding, healthcare, obviously, alternative energy and base and the climate, obviously. But I just didn't hear him talk about it a lot. And Tulsi actually, you know, had more options, but this isn't a Tulsi segment. This is an Andrew Yang segment. But you know, so but the thing I find interesting is just to kind of switch gears and change topics on this. You know, although he was blacked out by the media and in all honesty unfairly castigated by the Democratic Party, he continues to work with the party, especially with the, you know, he's I believe he's down in Georgia right now campaigning for the Democratic Party that cheated him. And it's like, you know, I don't get how you can continue to bend the knee to an establishment and a party. Like now they take you with open arms. I believe when he dropped out of the race, he fucking got a CNN contract. He became a contributor and everything, which was like, all right, now we kind of see through you now, bro. And then, you know, he just continued to work with the party. And then even when it came down to it, he was like, you know, and this is me bringing up Tulsi again, but he was like, anybody that supports my idea, that's who I'm endorsing. Bernie refused to endorse UBI, and Tulsi was the one that endorsed it. But he endorsed Biden. So, but you know, you continue to bend the knee to the party that screwed you over. And it's like, I don't know how to feel about that. But again, with this the Breakfast Club interview, and that's what I'm moving into now. He went on a Breakfast Club about a week or two ago. And although, you know, there's a lot of bullshit I've seen in there, a lot of, you know, Democratic Party cowtailing and everything. I found a conversation about updating the Constitution very interesting, because that is a hot button. That's a very, you know, a no, a stark no. It's a no for me, dog, when it comes to conservatives. But I like this quote he says. He says, we're decades behind the curve of changing many things, you know, in America. He's absolutely right. Like, we're decades behind the curve of healthcare. Like, the rest of the world has single payer. Like, Canada got single payer decades ago. The UK, same with the UK. All these countries are, you know, are surpassing us in many areas. Education, like, it's insane. Even countries that we claim to hate, like Cuba, for decades, Cuba has had a world-renowned healthcare and fucking education system, but nobody wants to say that because it's evil communist Cuba. So, but I just think that opens up the door to a conversation that, you know, the United States is not number one at everything. Like, you know, a lot of people like to believe, and that's not people, you know, that's not me saying I hate America. That's me saying I want America to be better. I want America to live up to the promises and honestly the things that it says it is. I want you to live up to that. And it's like, America's not doing that. And America hasn't been doing that for a very long time, if ever. So, you know, but when you bring up that conversation, you automatically get lumped in with like the Antifa, even though, you know, Antifa's complete dog shit the way conservatives talk about it. But you get lumped in as somebody that hates America because you want the country to be better, to actually live up to its promises. So he also brings up the lifetime appointments don't make sense. That's something else, you know, going into the Ruth Bader Ginsburg situation going on, even though she's not the best person out there, like, you know, the media likes to make her out to be. She has been one to express eugenic sentiments in the past when it comes to abortion rights and black people. So she's someone who constantly did not rule in favor of indigenous people when they came to their land. So she's not the golden bastion of hope people made her out to be. So, but when it came to white women, that's when she voted correctly, you know? So whatever, that's more of that feminist bullshit. But, you know, he brings up that lifetime appointments thing, and like I believe Barack Obama asked RBG to step down, you know, with her declining health, because when you die, there, you know, it may not be a fucking Democrat in office to replace you, and she refused to. And it's like, bottom line is when it comes to the Supreme Court, they rule in favor of corporations anyway. It doesn't matter who's in there. But I'm just speaking from the lens of these people that actually, believe the government still works. And that's another thing he brought up. He brought up that government doesn't work anymore because it's turning into just partisan bullshit. Like I said in the earlier segment, it's turning to wrestling, except they actually get health care. So, and it's like, he brings up these stats. Congress has a 21% approval rating, and incumbents have a 94% win rate. Like, they always win their seats back. So, and this is him speaking of the Georgia races and everything, which, the candidates down there, I believe the Loeffler chick, who she's running against, Senator Loeffler. She's a piece of shit. She got caught basically selling her stocks off because they knew coronavirus was going to be bad. So I believe she sold off like her retail stocks and everything. Which, yeah, she's a piece of shit. But it's like, you have this religious Democrat coming in. I forget what the guy's name is down there. And also this Asimov guy, I believe is his name. They did this. I'll just insert the clip.
People want to know what kind of person they're voting for. But I think they also want to know what policies that person supports, what you would do, what you would vote for if you were elected. Let me just do a speed round with you,
Okay.
if I can. Do you support the Green New Deal?
No.
Do you support Medicare for all?
No.
Do you support DC statehood?
Yes.
Do you support Puerto Rican statehood?
Yes.
Do you support defunding the police?
No.
Do you support abolishing ICE?
No.
Do you support expanding the Supreme Court?
No.
Do you support ending the filibuster?
Maybe.
Yeah, it's like he's not for any of the policies that 80% of it, like 80% of your party is for Medicare for all, bro. So you saying no, that's not, whatever. So, and it's like, again, just going back to Yang, like you go into these issues that we have and you have so many bright, bold ideas. And it's like, but it's kind of like you throw shade at the voters a little bit. And it's like, bro, maybe if the people see a viable third party option, Andrew, that 94% incumbent win rate will go down because people actually see a viable third party option. And if people like you, like people like Andrew Yang, like Tulsi Gabbard, like Bernie Sanders, like Elizabeth Warren, like AOC, Jamal Bowman, all the progressives, Ro Khanna, if you guys were to leave the Democratic Party and start a third party, that would become the most popular party in the country. You want to know why? Because you're for the popular policies in the country. You're hitching yourself to a party that is shifting right, every election cycle. Further, they're shifting further right. Like Joe Biden is more to the right of Obama. And Obama is fucking Ronald Reagan, basically. So it's like, you're hitching yourself to a party that doesn't give a fuck about any of the things you care about. And it's like, that's why I'm so enamored by the movement for a People's Party. And it's like, I'm not just diving into it blindly. I'm taking it slow. I'm reading into certain things about them. Eric Braun, he seems like a genuine dude. He comes across as genuine. And, they had a lot of people there at the People's Party convention. A lot of like Jimmy Dore has spoken there. Nina Turner, fucking Cornel West. There was a lot of people there. So it's like you guys have something started. Danny Glover was there too. I was like, Danny Glover's a progressive? Is a progressive? Okay. Marianne Williamson. You have a lot of people in your corner, but it's like, you shouldn't dive into a party head first, you feel me? Like, and most people don't like to subscribe to parties. They just want to see their fucking lives get changed. They don't care, they don't give a shit who does it. However, we've been so stuck in this dogmatic duopoly that people don't see the third parties as a viable option. But if they see people like Bernie Sanders and Ro Khanna, like all the people I listed, Andrew Yang, Tulsi Gabbard, going and starting a third party, whether it's joining the movement for a People's Party or banding together as the Progressive Caucus and starting a complete thing, a complete new party. But people don't see our politicians doing that because, they're scared to challenge power first and foremost. I definitely believe somebody like Andrew Yang is scared to go up against that establishment. That's why he's not as rowdy as somebody like Tulsi was. And they just see where the party is and they're scared. They're scared. So, And then, again, as I said earlier, he doubles down on this, on this Joe Biden support. Like, he says Joe Biden is a return to normalcy. Like, bro, that's what got Donald Trump reelected, was a return to normalcy. People don't want to go back to normal. People wanted change. People wanted radical change. That's why in 2016, Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders were the most popular candidates, because of their populist policies that they were pushing, and the populist sentiments that they were pushing forward. Although Donald Trump was a fake populist. But however, it's weird though. Like, I think I talked about it on the channel before. Donald Trump actually like talked about single payer a lot, in, like, in the past, and even most recently in the 2016 Republican primary. Like, he was talking about how, single payer works, basically. That's what he said during the primary. So, but and again, Andrew Yang is somebody who has bold ideas and needed ideas. But however, these ideas, they don't have a chance coming into fruition within the Democratic Party. So it's like, you need to get away from the party, but you're not going to, because that's where the power center is. And unfortunately, I think Andrew Yang is somebody that that follows the power. Those, power attracts people who crave power. So that's just, so that's my Andrew Yang segment. I wanted to talk about him real quick because I saw a couple things I found interesting. His crusade on holding the media accountable is good, but it's like, bro, like, look, you're not going to change the mainstream media. How about you try supporting independent media, people that actually embrace you, people that like your ideas? But like I said, he's going to chase the power structure. So I'm going to go ahead and end the segment there and move on to the next segment.